So I thought I would quickly, I suppose another walk and talk, but I thought I would quickly talk about the finance industry once again. Recently, I've been looking at the finance industry, mainly for business information and working out what might happen this year with respect to interest rates and borrowing, things like that. And over the years, you become familiar with the finance industry and where the sources of investment are, and you learn a general view, and you meet people that work in the finance industry, and I always think to myself, that it's not an easy job really, because the subject matter, I suppose, isn't that interesting, because essentially you're dealing with, you're responsible for either selling a financial product or investing in something, and essentially you want to know that that thing makes money, so it's very binary. You are managing money or selling money, and you just want to know, are you going to get more money back? And that's how you get paid, via commissions and bonuses. And so I've always thought, it's not exactly the most interesting job, and not really. And then you might come across a philanthropist, and whether it's an individual or some individuals with a philanthropy fund, and they spend their time managing that money, and essentially looking for things to invest in, to take a view on where the best investments are. Now, if once again you are simply looking at profit margin, and things like Bitcoin become interesting, and cryptocurrencies, because as a financial thing, it can potentially offer big price rises, but also incredibly risky, because most people won't actually know what the price is going to do. Now, this is where I'm a little bit different, because cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, things like NFTs, I've really always viewed them as basically a pyramid scheme based on some great technology. And I really believe that for a lot of people, the cool technology is the allure and the attraction, but essentially the underlying value is based purely on its ability to be a good pyramid scheme, i.e. the more people that buy in, the greater the value is. There's more money running around the system. So cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, NFTs are something that I've never thought was a good idea at all, simply because there's no underlying asset. Anyway, that wasn't my point really, but anyway, so if you are in charge of an investment fund, and you really don't care how you make that money grow, you just want to invest in something that makes money, you might take a look at the high risk, high potential stuff, like cryptos, Bitcoin, NFTs. Saying that, I think NFTs are dead now. I think that's a bubble that has really blown. And anyway, right, so there are other things to investing, like the stock market, like traditional stocks. You might be in private equity or the angel investing space, and I do find the angel investing, which can be philanthropy or private equity, quite interesting, because the people that work for these companies are genuinely interested in the in the asset that they're getting hold of. And it tends to be a business, a company, and so they are interested in the product, and that product, being managed better, and essentially the business operating better. But once again, I suppose the profit motive creeps in, and once again this puts pressure on people attached to that investment fund, or because they have to provide performance, evidence of performance. They have to purchase something or get into something that they make money of. And I suppose right there, a philanthropist might come along and say, actually, I just want the thing that I invest in to work and to benefit people, to provide the product or service that we know is good, and to give employment. And that's sort of, the stuff I really like, because it really does demonstrate a more mature, older response to investing. And I find that there are many times when you invest like this, that the actual thing you invest in actually really does perform much better than expected, and so that can be, a very good thing. But if you are, simply managing money, and you just want something, to make you money, that's when I find that the pressure there and the expectation can really set you up for failure.
Have you got an office?
I know, this is my office. That guy, he's funny. I saw him yesterday, and he's probably thinking, what's that idiot doing talking to himself? But so back to investing and the finance industry, and this profit motive focused thing that is causing trouble, or can cause trouble. Because I'm about to shoot off at a tangent now and relate that activity to society and the issue of inequality, because many people have understood that there is a relationship. Because if you very generally think that you have all this money in circulation, and this group of people over here in the finance industry, have access to that money, and essentially they're going to do something with it and make more money, all that money has to come from somewhere. And in actual fact, one view you could take is that all that money does come from everybody else, in the form of costs that you pay, and the profit that you pay in all the products and services that you have, and also your taxation. And so it does get complicated. But it made me years ago think there's a relationship between the finance industry and the general public and this issue of inequality. And what inequality in this context really means is that if you are poor, you're likely to stay poor because it's very hard to break out of poverty. And if you're rich, you're more likely to stay rich because it's easier for you to access things that allow you to stay rich. To take one extreme example, if you have so much money, you can structure your financial thing in a way that it does limit tax liability. And this is done with offshore companies and being non-domiciled, and there are financial ways to do it, and that's called effective tax managing. You don't want to be in a position where you are premeditatedly not declaring money, and we know that's been in the news recently. And it's always in the news because people always seem to want to do it. Now, this does link me to one of the points I wanted to make, is that the people that are likely to want to save on paying less tax, they unfortunately do tend to be the very wealthier people. And in my work experience, that sort of thing, I've met people, let's say, with £10 million and they don't want to retire or anything like that, even though they really could. But they want that £10,000, that £10 million to become £20 million. Now, a few years later, that individual has turned that £10 million that they had access to, or they own, and they've actually doubled it. They now have a net worth of around 20 million. And you'll be chatting to them, and you might say, hey, you can retire now and actually live the rest of your life, very comfortably without having to work. Now, some people do that, or they'll buy a bed and breakfast and think that will make them happy. Some people, for other reasons, decide that they're going to throw their towel in, and that's their number, and that they don't want to work anymore. But other people will say, no, that 20 million, I don't want that. I think I want 40 million, or I want 100 million. And then you'll find out that they bought a yacht that was a few million, and they want a bigger yacht, and then they want to start talking about private jets and helicopters and things like that. And now, I don't, on one respect, that's not such a bad thing, because all they are doing is being remunerated, possibly, and they're buying some toys, and why not? Because they have the cash. But there is this element of greed that's there. And that greed, I believe, ends up as culture inside these companies, that ends up inside the finance industry. Now, I'm not talking about all the finance industry, because we have the insurance industry that works very well, and they have a tough job. And the the insurance market is very legitimate. Things are very, very legitimate there. But this video is really pointing out that human nature and greed is a problem, and it is ending up in businesses, and it's ending up in our culture. And today, it's a real big problem in our financial institutions. And that's the point. And right now, I will say ciao, and no doubt we will speak again.